She used to ignore my texts, roll her eyes at my touch, until the day I stopped begging and started packing. Hey everyone, thanks for coming back. I appreciate you being here. Today I want to share something new, something that's been weighing on me. So here it goes. The air inside our living room felt heavy, almost suffocating in its stillness. That familiar aching quiet stretched between us, broken only by the low hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the constant tapping of Rachel's thumbs against her phone's screen. For what felt like the 35th time in the span of just 2 months, Rachel played her usual card, the same phrase she'd come to rely on, "I'm not in the mood." It used to be a soft rejection, the kind you don't take personally. But now, each time she said it, it cut a little deeper, like tiny shards embedding themselves under the skin. Still, a man with self-respect doesn't sit around counting the number of times he's turned away. He notices the trend, and eventually he does something about it. So that Thursday night, instead of giving in to the routine, retreating to my corner of the couch and pretending everything was fine, I sat across from her. I didn't look away. I didn't flinch. My voice was even, but there was something new behind it, something firmer, less willing to be ignored. "We need to talk, Rachel," I said. "Really talk. No more dodging. No more shallow small talk." She barely looked up. Her eyes stayed on the glow of her phone screen, her fingers still moving. "About what?" she mumbled. "I'm tired, Jake. Can't this wait?" "No," I told her, steady but direct. I reached out and took the phone from her hands, not aggressively, just enough to make a point, and set it down out of reach. "When was the last time we were actually close, Rachel? And I don't mean a vague guess. I want the truth." She blinked, clearly thrown off. Her eyes finally met mine and there was a flicker of something, guilt maybe, or just discomfort. "I don't know," she said quietly. "A few weeks ago?" I shook my head. "Try 2 months," I said, each word slow and cold, like ice melting into the space between us. 2 months of you telling me you're not in the mood. You've had headaches, you've been stressed, you're always too tired. Every time I reached for you, not just physically but emotionally, you had some reason to push me away." Her face hardened. Her posture changed. "So what?" she snapped. "You're keeping track now? That's pathetic." I leaned back slightly, letting a bitter smile trace across my lips. "Pathetic?" I echoed, my voice sharpening just a little. "You want to know what's actually pathetic, Rachel? It's a wife who treats her husband like he's just some annoying housemate. A woman who once stood at an altar, swearing to love and cherish me, now acting like my very presence is a nuisance, and my touch is something to avoid. That's not fair," she snapped back, her voice raised and defensive. "Work's been overwhelming. I'm doing my best, Jake. And you can't expect me to just be available to you whenever you feel like it." "Expect it?" I said, rising from my chair, trying hard to keep my frustration from boiling over. "Rachel, when have I ever demanded anything from you? I've been patient. More patient than I probably should have been. I've given you space, tried to ease your stress, planned date nights to reconnect, asked if you wanted to talk, about anything, everything. But all I've gotten in return is distance. Rejection after rejection." She opened her mouth to cut in, but I lifted my hand, stopping her gently. "No. Let me finish. This isn't about intimacy alone. This is about feeling respected, feeling like I matter to the one person who's supposed to make me feel seen. It's about feeling wanted, not like some obligation you have to deal with." The silence that followed stretched out between us like a thick fog. Even the background noise, the hum of the refrigerator, suddenly felt louder. But Rachel was really looking at me now. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't just glancing my way, she was seeing me. "You think I don't notice the way your face lights up when your phone buzzes with messages from your friends? Or how you suddenly have all the energy in the world when you're posting online or chatting with your sister for an hour straight?" I paused, letting it sink in. "And yet, when it's just me, just your husband, it's like the air leaves the room. You dress up to go out with your friends, put in the effort. But when it's just us here, you don't even care enough to change out of your pajamas." Her cheeks flushed and I could see the shame starting to settle in. But I wasn't done yet. "I'm going to make this as clear as I can," I said, my tone low but firm. "Either you still want to be married to me, truly want it, or you don't. There's no in-between where you get all the stability and comfort of a husband but keep treating me like I'm some ghost haunting the place." "You're being dramatic," she said under her breath, her voice much softer now. "Am I?" I asked, holding her gaze. "Then prove me wrong. Show me. Show me you still want to be my wife, not just someone who shares my roof and the bills." I turned to head toward the door but paused halfway, glancing back over my shoulder. "But just so we're clear, I'm done begging for crumbs of affection from the woman I married. I know my value, Rachel, even if right now you've lost sight of yours." There was a pause, a long heavy one. The kind that carries all the weight of what hasn't been said. Then Rachel finally spoke, her voice low. "And what if I can't? What if I'm just not ready for this right now?" I met her eyes without flinching, my voice clear and steady. "Then I'll find someone who is ready. Someone who recognizes the worth of what you're so casually tossing aside, and cherishes it." Her eyes narrowed. "Is that supposed to be a threat?" "No," I said plainly. "It's a statement of fact. A threat tries to control someone. I'm just giving you the truth." Without another word, I turned and started up the stairs. "I'm going to bed. You're welcome to come with me, if you're serious about trying to repair what we have. Or you can stay down here and think long and hard about whether this marriage even means anything to you anymore." I didn't stick around to hear what she chose. Because here's the thing, a man who truly understands his worth doesn't beg to be seen. He doesn't bargain with someone who's already forgotten what he brings to the table. He just lays out his truth, and waits to see if the other person cares enough to meet him there. That night she didn't come up. The bedroom was quiet. And oddly enough, for the first time in what felt like forever, I actually slept through the night without waking up in a storm of anxiety or second-guessing myself. I'd finally said what needed to be said. The cards were on the table now, and the next few days would reveal what kind of woman I'd really married. The truth was coming and I could feel it. 3 slow, dragging days crept by. During that time, Rachel seemed to settle comfortably into the role of the wounded party. Every time I walked into a room, she'd sigh loud enough for me to hear, like I was the villain in some melodrama she was narrating in her head. She gave me the cold shoulder, pouted, stared blankly at her phone like it held all the answers. But I wasn't the man I used to be, the one desperate for her affection, for her approval. That guy was gone. By Friday morning she walked out the door for work without saying a single word. Nothing unusual there. But something was different this time, and I couldn't shake it. She was more guarded with her phone than usual, angling it away from me as she typed out a message. That subtle move lit something up in my gut. Something sharp. A smart man doesn't ignore that kind of instinct. He pays attention. He looks closer. Later that day, while she was upstairs in the shower, I followed my gut. And I did what any man would do when suspicion has been quietly building into something undeniable. I pulled up our phone records online. What I saw made everything come into focus. The puzzle pieces fell into place, painfully, brutally. Over the last 2 months, the exact stretch of time where Rachel had been too tired, too stressed, or just not in the mood, something else had clearly been going on. There were hundreds of messages sent to a number I didn't recognize. Not just casual texts, but full-blown conversations, many of them late at night. Some even happened while she was sitting right next to me, claiming she was too exhausted to talk. I didn't break down. I didn't rage. I went into problem-solving mode. It didn't take long to find out who the number belonged to. A quick reverse phone lookup gave me the name, Marcus Thorne. One more step, a quick scroll through social media, and the whole picture started to come into focus. He was a fitness trainer. Divorced. The kind of guy who fills his feed with shirtless mirror selfies and cliché motivational quotes like, "Grind now, shine later." And there, in the middle of all his recent posts, were likes and comments from Rachel's account. Comments littered with heart emojis, fire emojis, the kind of attention she hadn't given me in years. That next morning she came downstairs wrapped in her bathrobe, hair still damp from the shower. I was already at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, and a neatly stacked pile of printouts in front of me, the phone records all laid out and waiting. "Morning," I said, my tone steady, calm. Too calm, probably. "Did you sleep okay?" "Fine," she said, barely glancing at me as she shuffled toward the coffee maker. "Found some interesting reading this morning," I added, lifting one of the pages slightly. She hesitated, and I saw it, that moment when her whole body seemed to lock up. Her reflection in the kitchen window was just as telling as her face. Frozen. "Well, what are you talking about?" she asked, her voice shaky but trying to sound indifferent. "I'm not suggesting anything," I replied evenly. "I'm just laying out the facts." I fanned out the papers in front of me. "According to our phone plan, you've exchanged 437 text messages with Marcus Thorne over the past 8 weeks. That's not counting calls. Some of these were sent just after midnight. Others? Right around 6 o'clock in the morning. So tell me, Rachel, what kind of fitness coaching requires that level of communication?" She turned quickly, words scrambling out of her mouth before her brain could filter them. He's helping me with a workout routine. It's not what you think. Honestly. Really? I asked, setting the printout down slowly. Because his Instagram paints a very different picture. I reached for my phone and opened one of his latest posts. You've been leaving him heart emojis, fire emojis, telling him how incredible he looks, motivating him, encouraging him. You haven't said anything like that to me in years, Rachel. I stared at the screen, reading one of her comments again. Rachel talking about how she wanted to train harder, her words playful, admiring. I stood, still calm, my voice never once rising. This. From the same woman who hasn't said a kind word to her husband in months, I said quietly. You haven't complimented me, haven't touched me, haven't looked at me like a man you love, but you've been sending heart emojis and encouragement to him? Her face tightened. You went through my social media? That's a violation of my privacy. I actually laughed, a short, dry laugh I couldn't hold back. Privacy? I repeated. You want to talk about privacy in a marriage? What about the privacy you threw away the moment you started forming an emotional bond with another man, while turning your back on me night after night? It's not like that, she snapped. We're just friends. I shook my head slowly. No, Rachel. Friends don't text each other at midnight. Friends don't exchange heart emojis. And real friends don't make their husbands feel like they're invisible while pouring all their attention into someone else. I stepped closer, not menacing, just firm, and I saw her instinctively move back, pressing herself slightly against the kitchen counter. But you know what really stands out to me? I said, my voice still steady. It's not just the messages. It's the way you talk to him, light, flirty, full of energy. You sound alive. Meanwhile, you can barely make eye contact with me without looking like you're trying to escape. Tears welled up in her eyes and they started falling, but I could tell they weren't from guilt. These weren't tears of someone who felt shame for what she'd done. They were the tears of someone who'd been exposed. I want to see your phone, I said simply. And just so we're clear, that's not a request. No, she snapped, clutching it. You can't make me show you anything. I gave her the same cold, controlled smile I'd worn 3 nights ago. The one that came when I stopped hoping she'd change. You're absolutely right, I said quietly. I can't make you do a thing. I can't make you want me. I can't force you to value this marriage. And I certainly can't make you tell the truth. I reached down, neatly folding the phone records. But what I can do is make choices based on the version of yourself you've decided to show me. Her eyes widened slightly. What does that mean? It means I'm done pretending this is about you being tired or stressed. It's not. This is about you checking out of our marriage while keeping me around as a safety net. As backup. I paused, then added with a quiet finality, well, guess what? You just lost your backup. I turned toward the hallway, walking toward the door. But just before I stepped out, I glanced back one last time. You've got until Sunday, I said, to decide if you actually want to fight for this marriage. Because after that, I'm done fighting alone. That means no more contact with your fitness trainer, I said, keeping my voice steady. No more messages. No more late-night chats. No more excuses. She stood frozen, tears streaking down her face. It also means full transparency, I continued. Your phone, your social media, everything. No hiding. No secrets. And it means actually showing up in this marriage. Not just living under the same roof like we're distant roommates, and let's be honest, not even the kind that still share affection. I let the silence stretch for a moment, then delivered the line that had been sitting in my chest for days. And if you can't do that, then Monday morning I'm calling a divorce lawyer. Simple as that. I held up the phone records one more time and set them down with purpose. These will make for pretty compelling evidence about why this marriage didn't survive. She was full on sobbing by then, a mess of emotion, regret, maybe fear. But I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't even feel sorrow. What I felt was clarity. Because a man doesn't try to bargain with betrayal. He confronts it. He puts it under the light. And he gives it one chance, one, to be addressed honestly. After that, he walks forward no matter who chooses to walk with him. Sunday was only 2 days away. Just enough time for her to show me something, anything, that resembled remorse. Time to show me not just who she had been, but who she wanted to be from here on out. The reckoning. Sunday came quicker than she expected. For me, it felt like it took forever. We sat in the living room. She hadn't said much all weekend. She looked worn down. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was panic. I didn't speak first. Then she whispered almost inaudibly, I deleted his number. Show me, I said. Her hands trembled as she handed me her phone. I scrolled through everything, contacts, message threads, social media accounts. Marcus Thorne was gone from her contacts, that much was true. But something else stood out, something more telling. She hadn't blocked him until that afternoon. I tapped on the message history. The last exchange had happened barely 3 hours ago. What did you say to him when you finally blocked him? I asked, my eyes still on the screen. She looked down, ashamed. I told him we couldn't talk anymore. That you had found out. Not because you realized it was wrong? I said quietly. Not because you wanted to stop? Her silence answered before she did. He said you were controlling, she finally muttered, and that I deserved better. And just like that, there it was. The truth always surfaces when someone feels cornered. It slips out when there's no more time left to hide behind vague answers. And what did you say back? I asked. Her voice cracked. I told him I was confused. That maybe he was right. I stood up slowly, every movement deliberate. And for the first time that entire weekend, maybe the first time in months, I felt completely, utterly calm. Thank you, I said, nodding, for finally being honest. What does that mean? She asked, her voice small, almost pleading. It means, I said quietly, you just confirmed everything I needed to know. You seriously considered leaving me for another man. You discussed our marriage, our private life, with someone outside of it. And now you want to act surprised that I'm walking away. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Tomorrow morning, I said, I have an appointment with a divorce attorney. Her eyes widened. But you said you'd give me a chance. I did, I replied, turning back to face her fully. I gave you the opportunity to be honest, to own your actions, to show me that you understood what you'd done, and that you wanted to make it right. But instead you lied by omission. You kept messaging him until the very last minute, and you openly admitted you thought about leaving me for him. I took a slow breath. Rachel, a woman who truly respects her marriage doesn't need a deadline or a warning to do the right thing. She does it because she cherishes what she has. Because she respects the man standing in front of her. She looked at me through tears, but they didn't sway me. Not this time. This isn't about anger anymore, I added. This is about finally seeing things clearly. When someone you trusted lets you down this deeply, what you feel isn't rage. It's just clarity. I turned and walked upstairs, not in a rush, not out of spite, but with purpose. I began packing a bag. I'm staying at a hotel tonight, I told her over my shoulder. You can stay here while we figure out how to start untangling our lives. Where are you going? She asked, her voice trembling. Somewhere I can think, I said plainly. Somewhere I won't have to listen to promises from someone who's already broken every one. As I packed, she followed me, switching between crying and snapping, blaming me 1 minute, begging the next. But it didn't touch me anymore. My mind was set. Because a man who truly values himself doesn't stick around just to be treated like an afterthought. He doesn't cling to someone who only stayed because she feared being alone. I wasn't going to settle for that. Not anymore. Tomorrow I'd start over. Not in grief, but in strength. I'd begin building a life from the ground up, with someone who actually wanted to be in it with me. The new dawn. By Wednesday, the divorce paperwork was filed. My attorney glanced through my documentation, the printouts, the timelines, the records I'd collected. He looked up, a little surprised. You know, he said, most men in your position are a mess. Emotional. Scattered. You seem almost relieved. And he was right. I didn't feel broken. I felt like I had been underwater for years, and I was finally coming up for air. Thursday evening, I was attending a work function for the Sterling account, one of those semi-formal networking mixers that always feel a little too staged. As I made my way through the room, someone approached me. You're with the Sterling team, right? She asked, offering a polite smile. I'm the project coordinator for the tech side of the implementation. We were supposed to meet months ago. Well, I said, reaching out to shake her hand, better late than never. I gave a half smile. Honestly, I don't usually stick around these kinds of events long enough to meet anyone new. She tilted her head slightly. So what changed tonight? I looked her straight in the eyes. My priorities have changed. Recently. We ended up talking for 2 hours. Conversation flowed effortlessly, about work, about books we both loved, our favorite vacation spots, even our go-to restaurants around the city. She didn't feel like someone trying to climb a ladder or impress the room. She felt present. In a sea of handshakes and business cards, you don't seem like the networking type, I said. She laughed gently. Neither do you. And that's when I realized something. A man who's found his value again can tell when someone genuinely enjoys his presence. No games. No pretending. I'd like to see you again, I told her. But I should be upfront. I'm going through a divorce. It's recent. Filed just this week. She nodded, not flinching. I appreciate you being honest, Jake. And for what it's worth, whoever let you go made a real mistake. That night, I went back to my hotel room with her number saved in my phone, and something else I hadn't felt in a long time, the sense that I mattered. That someone saw me and appreciated me for exactly who I was. Later, talking to a close friend, I found myself explaining it simply. She didn't leave me. She just stopped showing up. Kept pretending she was still invested, while emotionally she'd already walked out. He nodded. That's worse, honestly. If she had left, at least you'd know where you stood. Exactly, I said. Exactly. This woman, the one I met Thursday night, she understood more in 5 minutes than Rachel had in 5 years. Over the next 2 weeks we met a few times. Nothing romantic, not yet. Coffee breaks during the day, quick lunch meetings, peaceful walks downtown in the evenings. It was innocent, respectful. My divorce wasn't finalized, and I wasn't about to give Rachel any leverage to twist the narrative. During one of our walks, she looked at me thoughtfully and said, "You don't come across as bitter. Just certain. Like someone who finally stopped apologizing for having standards." I'm not bitter, I told her. And I've always had confidence. I just forgot I was allowed to show it. It hit me, somewhere in the quiet between texts and long walks alone. Sarah hadn't destroyed my confidence. She just buried it for a while. And I let her. She made me forget who I was. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with near-constant messages from her. Once she realized I wasn't coming back to grovel or beg for her attention, the tone of her texts started shifting, rapidly. At first they were pleading. Then came the frustration. Then the desperation again. Please come home. We can fix this. You're overreacting. Every marriage has rough patches. I made one mistake and now you're ready to throw away everything we built? But what she called a mistake, I now saw as a choice. And over the past few weeks, someone else, Era, reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten entirely. She reminded me that what I had been tolerating wasn't normal. That real partnership doesn't require begging to be seen. That love isn't supposed to feel like constantly trying to measure up to someone who's already checked out. Era reminded me of what I deserve, and it's not to be someone's backup plan while they test the waters elsewhere. I deserve someone who chooses me every single day, fully, willingly. The finality. 3 weeks into living this new version of life, quiet, solitary, clear, I decided it was time to go back and pick up the rest of my things from the house. I'd been careful up to that point. I'd made sure to stop by during the day when she was at work so I could avoid another emotional ambush. But this time things didn't go according to plan. This time she was home. She looked different when she opened the door. Smaller. Softer. Unsure of herself in a way I hadn't seen before. "Jake," she said quietly, "can we talk? About us? About trying to fix this." She trailed behind me as I headed upstairs. "I know I made mistakes, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. I believe we can work through this. We had something real." I kept my focus on the task, packing. Shirts, socks, a jacket I hadn't worn since last fall. "What exactly have you been thinking about?" I asked, still folding clothes neatly. She hesitated. "I was wrong. About a lot of things. About taking you for granted. About not seeing how good I had it. And about Marcus Thorne?" I added without turning. There was a pause, the kind that reveals more than words ever could. "You mean the trainer you were emotionally preparing to leave me for?" She winced. I was never going to leave. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I reached for a button-down shirt, the one she used to say was too dressy for anywhere we ever went. "You seemed pretty clear to me back then." "I've changed," she said, her voice quivering. "I want to show you that. I've realized how much you mean to me. I think about you all the time. I miss you. I miss us." She reached out and took my hand, her voice trembling. "I'm ready now," she said. "I want to be close to you again." I almost laughed. Now she was ready? After months of cold shoulders and emotional distance. After choosing another man's attention over mine. After openly considering walking away. Now that the divorce papers were filed, now that I had stopped chasing her approval, suddenly she remembered she had a husband. I gently pulled my hand away. "I want someone who doesn't need an ultimatum to show they care. Someone who chooses me before it's convenient." Her voice cracked. "You've moved on? You mean, am I seeing someone?" I asked, looking directly at her. "I mean that I've started living again. Not sitting around begging for affection from someone who checked out of our marriage months ago. Panic set in on her face now. Genuine panic, the kind that comes when control slips through your fingers. "You can't be serious," she said, stepping closer. "You filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. You can't have moved on that quickly." "Watch me," I replied, calm and steady. "This is insane," she snapped. "You're throwing away everything we built, over a rough patch." I turned toward her fully, my voice measured. "A rough patch is forgetting to say, 'I love you,' once in a while. A rough patch is snapping at each other under stress. You emotionally disconnected from me, gave your attention to another man, and left me alone in a marriage I was still fighting for. That's not a rough patch, that's abandonment." Tears were falling now. "Please, don't do this. Don't throw us away because of one mistake." "One mistake," I repeated, picking up my bag. "The mistake was me staying long after the writing was on the wall. The mistake was thinking if I just held on a little longer, you might remember what you had. The mistake was believing that love alone would be enough to fix this." "I do love you," she cried. I shook my head. "No, Rachel. You love the security I provided. You loved the house, the comfort, the safety net. You loved the idea of a husband while you explored what else was out there." She looked stunned, reaching for something, anything, to throw back at me. "What about this other woman? Does she know you're still married?" I gave her that same cold smile. The one she'd seen more often in the last few weeks than in the entire span of our marriage. "She knows I'm getting divorced," I said. "She knows I was married to someone who didn't realize what she had until it was gone. And unlike you," I added, "she actually shows up. She listens. She respects me without needing to be reminded." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "So this is revenge then?" "No," I said, calmly, walking toward the door. "This is called moving on." "No, Rachel," I said quietly, looking her in the eyes for what felt like the last time. "This isn't revenge. This is self-respect. Revenge," I added, "would be making you watch me be happy, rubbing it in your face. But I'm not here for that." As I stepped outside, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. She was still standing there, alone in the driveway. Silent. Still. Watching me leave for good. And I could see it in her eyes, she finally understood. Some choices can't be undone. Some levels of disrespect can't be walked back. And some men won't wait around forever hoping to be remembered. Freedom. 6 months later, I was a completely different version of myself. Not because I had changed who I was, but because, for the first time in years, I wasn't being diminished by someone who was supposed to build me up. I was finally free to be the man I'd always been, without apology. The divorce was finalized on a Friday. Clean. Simple. No drama, no courtroom theatrics. Just a quiet email confirmation from my lawyer. Subject line, "It's done." I stared at it for a moment, then let out a long breath, the kind that felt like it came from years deep inside me. Completely free. My phone buzzed on the table. A message. From Rachel. Even after half a year, she was still reaching out, still trying to claw her way back into a life she'd already let go of. "I saw your post about the promotion. Congratulations. I always knew you'd do well. Maybe we could catch up over coffee sometime?" I held the phone out to Era, who read the message and shook her head, a small smile of disbelief on her face. "She's still trying?" "Every few weeks," I nodded. "Last month, it was about finding closure. Before that, she wanted to give a proper apology." "She never stops," Era said softly. "She never means it," I replied. But this time, instead of ignoring it, I tapped the call button. She answered almost instantly. "Jake." Her voice was cautious. "Our marriage meant everything to me, Rachel," I said calmly, no edge in my voice. "That's why I held on when you had already emotionally checked out. That's why I confronted you when I found the messages. That's why I gave you one last chance, when most men would have walked away in silence." "Then, why couldn't you forgive me?" she asked, almost whispering. "Because forgiveness doesn't mean I have to be foolish," I said. "I did forgive you. I forgave the betrayal, the way you made me feel invisible. But I wasn't going to hand you another chance just so you could forget me all over again." There was silence on her end. "The woman I'm with now?" I continued. "She's never been confused about whether she wants me. She respects me, shows up for me. And she didn't need me to leave her to finally realize I mattered. She gave me space when I needed it," I added, "but stayed close enough to let me know I wasn't alone." "And you?" I said finally, "You gave me ultimatums of your own, by choosing someone else while you were still married. You just didn't expect me to answer with clarity." I didn't wait for her to respond. "Take care of yourself, Rachel." Then I ended the call, for the last time. She's never needed ultimatums just to show me affection, I said, my voice calm but firm. She's never made me feel like I was a burden, like I was asking too much simply by wanting to be close. There was a pause. Then Rachel asked, "So, you think she's better than me?" I shook my head. "No. I think she's better for me. And the truth is, I'm better with her. She brings out the version of me that I used to love, the man who tried, who gave, who led with heart. And she brings that out because she actually appreciates it, instead of taking it for granted." Silence followed on the other end. A long, empty silence. Then finally, in a soft, broken whisper, she said, "I miss you." "I know," I replied. "But I don't miss being invisible in my own marriage. I don't miss being the backup plan. I'm with someone now who chose me from day one, and who continues to choose me every single day. And if she ever hurts me the way you did," I added, "then I'll handle it the same way I handled this, with dignity, with self-respect, and with the quiet understanding that I deserve better than settling for someone who doesn't value what I bring to the table." I could hear her crying now, not the performative kind but real sobs. Still I felt nothing but resolve. "I have to go," I said gently. "Wait," she started. "No," I interrupted. "No more waiting. No more hoping. No more hanging around for someone to decide I'm worth loving." I ended the call and slipped the phone into my pocket. I was headed out to dinner, with someone who actually wanted to be there. No games. No guilt. No guessing. Just what I'd been fighting for all along. Not the drama. Not the constant second-guessing. Not the draining effort of convincing someone to care. Just peace. Just mutual respect. Just sitting across from a woman who smiled when she saw me, and meant it. After that call, Rachel never reached out again. Maybe she finally understood what she'd done. That some bridges once burned to ashes can't be rebuilt, no matter how badly you want to turn back. Or maybe she realized the simple truth. A man who knows his worth doesn't negotiate with someone who forgot it.